Podcast Answer Man, episode number 314.
Entertaining, educational, and encouraging content that makes a difference. This is GSPN.TV. Join the community.
This is Dan Andrews from the Lifestyle Business Podcast. You're listening to the hardest working man on iTunes. It's Cliff Ravenscraft, and he is the Podcast Answer Man.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Podcast Answer Man. My name is Cliff Ravenscraft, and this, my friends, is the podcast about podcasting, helping you take your show to the next level. It doesn't matter if you're a brand new podcaster, if you have been podcasting for many years, or you haven't quite yet recorded that first episode. We can help you take care of that. Anyway, there's something we can all do to take our show and everything we do in life to the next level. Well, my friends, I am actually recording this intro on Thursday, June 20th. I had just released episode number 313, I think. Yep. And here I am recording an intro for episode number 314. And this week, I am going to be playing for you an interview. Now, actually, the interview that I am playing for you was not intended or recorded as an interview for Podcast Answer Man. Instead, it was where I was actually being interviewed by someone else for their podcast. And in fact, that person has been on Podcast Answer Man before. I have interviewed him on Podcast Answer Man before. And I think that outside of some of my big influencers, business advisors, and mentors, you know, people like Michael Stelzner, Michael Hyatt, and Dan Miller, and a couple other people like that, I would say that this individual is probably the most frequently mentioned person I've ever talked about on Podcast Answer Man. I know it's not Jesus or God either, but it is. That would be quite an interview to play for you, wouldn't it? Whew, I don't know if I'd want you to hear that one. But anyway, I am talking about none other than Wooden Boat Dan. That's right, Wooden Boat Dan, otherwise known as Dan Matson from hookedonwoodenboats.com. Now, Dan has been podcasting now for quite some time. He's built up quite a reputation for himself over the years. I'm pulling up his website right now over at hookedonwoodenboats.com. And I'm always impressed by what he has accomplished. He is now on episode 92 of his podcast as I'm recording, and it looks like it actually just got published today, episode number 92. And the interview that you're about ready to hear is his 100th episode. That's right, he's already recorded this episode, number 100. He's 8 shows in the can, and that is how hard this guy has been working on creating valuable content. And this isn't just any episode that he's putting online. He's taking some really great measures into producing valuable content, not just for his audience, but also for the people that he interviews. He goes out, personally meets with these people, takes the most amazing pictures. We get into all of that in the interview. In fact, normally, when I do interviews, when other people interview me on their show, I pretty much just stick to whatever questions they ask. I give them answers, whatever they're looking for. But I just couldn't help asking Dan a bunch of questions during his interview with me. And at the end of the call, or right around 20 minutes or so into our recording, he pretty much wraps up his interview with me, which will be his 100th episode out a little later this year. And I continued the recording and said, "Hey, Dan," and you'll hear this, I didn't even edit it out. I said, "Hey, Dan, do you mind if I continue the recording and actually use this whole thing as an episode of Podcast Answer Man? But I am going out of town. And by the time that you're hearing this, I am actually on the Disney Dream cruise liner with members of the GSPN.TV community, as well as my wife and my family. So that is why I needed something for you guys. I know I normally would just take a week off, but I just did that for San Diego, And I think I did that once earlier in the year. And so I didn't want to actually leave you guys with a couple weeks of no content. So here you go. This is something for you. Now, here's the situation. I want to say something before I play this interview. I haven't gotten any negative feedback at all. But one of the things that I am extremely sensitive to is the number of calls to action that I always put into my shows. Now, there's no question, my friends, that I actually promote a lot of my stuff. I promote my Podcasting A to Z course when they're coming up. I spend some time promoting my Bluehost affiliate commissions, usually saving most of that stuff for the end of the show. And I promote some other things. But I try to always make sure that I'm giving you consistent value in each and every single episode. One thing that I realized after I finished recording today is that I spent probably about 10 minutes in episode number 313 of Podcast Answer Man talking about the Podcasting A to Z course coming up on July 22nd. And I realized that, man, 10 minutes is a lot of time to be talking about that. And one of the things that I was so excited about was that I spent, hours collecting some various different testimonials and I spent a good deal of time, grabbing those as nice looking screen captures, making sure they have like profile picture images. And I took those into Photoshop, cleaned up any kind of little stray little lines here and there. I brought them into, I didn't tell you all this, but this is what I'm telling you now. I brought them into Keynote and put them on a white background so I could add the little picture frame, curly things that kind of make it look like it's a part of a photo album. And then after I did that, I did a screen grab of that, cropped to the four corners where it would actually look, where it would fit the size of the width of my page. And then, of course, because it's a PNG file, I opened it back up in Adobe Photoshop, saved it back out as a JPEG image. I could have shrunk them down and compressed them a little bit smaller so that the page would load faster. But honestly, I wanted the best quality there so you could read it real crisp and clear, especially if you guys have those Retina devices that want to give you fuzzy-looking images. I figure I'll take the hit on the SEO to give you great-looking images. And I know that there's probably people out there, and you might even be a web developer yourself, and you're thinking, wow, Cliff, I could have created you a little template to go around there, and we could have created something, and it would have been much better if you would have just used text instead of images, because I've done a little bit of this kind of stuff in the past, and I've heard that feedback before. And I get all of that. But when I got to thinking about it, it's like, man, is 10 minutes way too much to be promoting Podcasting A to Z? And it probably pushed the limit. But here's what I do hope. Yes, I make a living from what I do. All right, this is how I make a living, and for me, my Podcasting A to Z course is the biggest source of my income. And filling out 20 seats or 20 spots in this course is really important for me financially and this business financially. Not that you need to worry about that, but it is something that I not necessarily worry about, but it's something that I have to be diligent about marketing. And again, I understand 10 minutes is a little bit too much, but here's one thing that I hope that you would understand is that, yes, 300, and again, please understand, I'm not responding to negative criticism. In fact, I don't think there's been enough time for anybody to actually listen to the episode, think about the fact that I spent 10 minutes talking about Podcasting A to Z, and then provide me any kind of criticism. There hasn't been enough time for that. But it's something that I'm thinking of. I've been to lunch, and I'm back from lunch, and I'm thinking, let me think about that. But here's what part of that was definitely me looking to promote Podcasting A to Z. I'm hoping some of you who are hearing my voice are going to go to podcastingatoz.com and you're going to register for my class. I'm hoping, I'm praying, whatever the case may be. I do want that. I'm still at 7 subscribers now. Of course, this is a week after you heard episode 313, and this is I'm recording this 1 week from when this actually goes out live to the feed. So by the time this goes out, I'm hoping that I have 13 people signed up, and there's only 7 seats left. But right now there are 7 people signed up, and I have 13 spots left. And so yeah, part of those 10 minutes, it was very intentional. Hey, I want you guys to know that I have this course, and here's some new things, and here's what I will hope that some of you can do. Those of you who have no intention of taking my Podcasting A to Z course, some of you who have absolutely no desire for any of that, I hope that you would be able to listen to those 10 minutes and kind of think creatively about how you can take what I'm communicating or the things that I'm saying that I'm doing and find some sort of inspiration in it. So, for example, some of the things that I talked about is that, hey, I spent a lot of time adding some testimonials to my product page. So even if you have zero desire to take my A to Z course, one of the things that I would recommend that you do is go to podcastingatoz.com and look at my sales page. Now, I am not one of those famous internet marketers that knows the psychology of everybody out there and has all those key snazzy phrases and perfect copywriting skills and all that stuff. I don't have any of that. I'm influenced by some of those people and things I've heard over the years. But what you get at podcastingatoz.com is Cliff Ravenscraft. You read through it, it's very much my voice. It really is. You probably would be able to read through and kind of imagine my voice talking to you through a podcast episode. It's very much written in my tone, and it's not overly salesy and marketing kind of copy. However, what I would hope that you would do is you would look at it and kind of see, wow, Cliff Ravenscraft has done, and there's Cliff talking about himself in the third person, but also I'm suggesting that you're talking about me, thinking so this is your voice saying, hey, this guy has done how many of these classes? 12 of these classes now, something like that. And he used to charge $9.99 and now he charges $19.99. And every single time he's done this class, he's pretty much filled the spots, and that's a lot of people. In fact, there's been times that, he said, I've had 32 people in one 4-week session sign up one time. The most I think I had was either 36 or 39. I'd have to go and look. But I shoot for 20. That's what I shoot for. 39 was whoo-wee. Anyway, so you think about that sales page is converting. Now, I want to also say this. My sales page for Podcasting A to Z is not what sells Podcasting A to Z. There are a couple other things that sell Podcasting A to Z, but I do encourage you to look at the page. Look at the page, look at the video at the top. By the way, the video at the top has, it's approximately $2,000 to $3,000 to create a video, just like what you see at the top of that page. The big fancy one with the professional voiceover and all that fancy graphics and stuff like that. And here's one thing that I know. A lot of people would never pay $2,000 to $3,000 for a video like that. And I will tell you that I was glad to pay that price. In fact, the video was originally, or the actual animation part of it was originally quoted half the price of what I paid. And I actually convinced the person to allow me to pay twice the amount. And he didn't have any problem with that. And the reason why is because I thought he was not charging enough, and I could afford it. And so I said, hey, I'd like you to charge me this amount, and I'll pay you this amount. But I want you to do it. I want you to get paid well because I'm expecting excellence here, and I got excellence. And that video is very, very nice. But so think about that. Okay, so some people would say, there's no way I'd never pay $2,000 to $3,000 for a sales video at the top of a page. Well, this course has at one point generated more than $35,000 in income during one 4-week session. So think about return on investment. Now, how many times have I done this class? Well, I've done it almost every other month and sometimes every 2 to 3 months since March 2011. And here we are now in June, or coming up on July 22nd, 2013. So I've done this a lot. That's really, honestly, that video is 1 or 2 students who signed up for the class. And so that's not all that expensive. And so sometimes you have to be willing to invest. That's one thing that I can think of, that you could look at this and think, wow, that's okay. The other things you can see is, I've taken some audio-only testimonials and turned them into YouTube videos. That's something you could decide whether or not you like or don't like and what you might consider putting in there. The way that I communicate what's included in the video, And of course, then I spent some time talking about, hey, I added some new testimonials at the bottom. And I think those testimonials are pretty darn cool. And I have had people tell me, they said, Cliff, listen, all the testimony, because I've had people say, Cliff, I'd give you a testimonial and I will. But I want to just tell you, what sold me is as soon as I saw that some of the top podcasters in iTunes were your students, that I knew to sign up right then and there. And so that's why I did spend some of those 10 minutes in the last episode talking about that little image at the bottom of my page that talks about, what is it, 13 people, actually myself and 12 of my clients or students we're in the top 50 of all business podcasts. And so I heard that from one of my students, and I've heard that kind of echoed around some other people when they say, what really convinced me to be serious about, buying equipment from you or this or that were these people who are the top people in iTunes. And so I added that to my sales page. And so, yeah, I got a little excited about it last week. And I hope that even if you're not excited about Podcasting A to Z, that you'd be excited about a sales page, especially for those of you who are selling things or might consider selling things as products and services down the road. A lot of people ask me, how do I monetize a podcast? Well, you monetize a podcast, in my mind, what I've done, not directly through the podcast, although that can be done. In fact, by the way, little announcement I haven't made anywhere else publicly yet. I have shared this in my private mastermind groups and stuff, but I did pick up a brand new sponsor for 2 shows. And I'll be talking about those very soon. In fact, I might tell you about it in the next episode. So if you're interested in that, check it out. But anyway, you can do advertising, you can get sponsorships. But man, if you have any area of expertise where you do something better than anyone else, or you do something in a unique way, you actually are willing to outwork someone else, and you can provide value to people through your expertise, through your products, through your services, man, you can really do a lot to monetize your show through those things. And, well, guess what? You might need a sales page. And before I just go ahead and start shutting down this line of thought, I just want to share one other thing, and then I'll apologize for how long I went on with that, and then I'll apologize for how long I went on with this, and then we'll get into that interview with Dan Matson. But here's what I wanted to say is I said, yes, I think that you should go check out the sales page. But understand this, the $2,000 to $3,000 video at the top, all of those testimonials at the bottom, and all the explanation of all the things that are in the course, the sales page alone doesn't sell Podcasting A to Z. What sells Podcasting A to Z is a combination of so many things. The reason why Podcasting A to Z is to the place where it sells out pretty much every single time is that, well, there is a track record at this point. And before there was a track record, why did the first 20 people ever sign up and fill out that class? Well, it was because I was consistent with creating can't live without content, extremely insightful, inspirational, educational material, episode after episode after episode, week after week after week. And we're talking hundreds and hundreds of episodes, pouring myself and my passion for what I'm doing, demonstrating just how much this stuff means to me. And those people said, wow, if I'm going to do this, this is the guy I want to learn from. And so there's a lot of that. Then there's, the people who have gone through the course, and it's a consistent case of me under-promising and way over-delivering. When somebody comes through my Podcasting A to Z course, they're blown away by it. They're like, wow, I've been on some online classes before, and nothing has ever happened like this. This is insane, and I don't know how you do it. And so you overserve. And a lot of people, that's the crazy thing. I'm surrounded by a lot of wannabe entrepreneurs, and I don't throw that word around lightly, but some people who are kicking the tires of entrepreneurialism. And these are the people who say, I really do want to build something on my side, and I really do want to eventually leave this day job, but I am not going to sacrifice insert name of something here. I can only give this X number of hours of my week. I really can't give it more than 10 or 15 hours. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, well, and so you can't, when you're trying to build a little program on the side and doing something on the weekend. I mean, I'm talking about, man, if you take somebody's money, you better be ready to stay up and serve them like crazy. Those are certificates of appreciation that people are giving you. And so it's consistently providing content, being there. People know who you are, serving people, doing it for the right reasons. People often sign up because they know that I have the right motives. Yeah, there are times when I get a little bit of a focus on the money and stuff like that, but I usually come back to center space and it's, and I get a little balanced and kick back into gear and get my motives and my priorities right and straightened out. That happens to me from time to time, but people understand that. So it's all of these things mixed together. Why people buy from me, and why do I sit here and ask? Why am I bringing all this up? Because you know what, I ask myself this question a lot. Why do people buy from me? Oftentimes, I ask people when they're hiring me. At the end of a consulting call, it's all done. It's like, do you mind if I ask you a question? Why did you hire me? What was it that convinced you that spending an hour with me on the telephone was worth $300? What can you explain that to me? And so of course I do that with people where the conversation and the feeling that I got from working with them is that they would be comfortable having that conversation with me. And it's been fun to get through those. And I just wanted to let you guys know that it's not just about a sales page. There's no simple formula that I can give you here that say, here's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 20. I mean, there are websites out there that promise you great sales copy, but there's more to this stuff than sales copy. It's about being consistent. It's about being reliable. It's about being somebody that's dependable, somebody that you can count on, somebody that you feel confident is devoted to what their expertise is. And there's actually a lot more than that. A lot more than that. But I hope that my 10-minute conversation for some of you wasn't a total bore, that you didn't think that, gosh, Cliff, this is just a 10-minute advertisement in your 1-hour show last week. I hope that wasn't what really went through your mind. And if it was, I hope that this conversation helps you to understand, even when somebody's making a pitch for a product, what can you learn from it? And if I did it horribly and you hated it, what mental notes can you make to say to yourself, I'll never do what Cliff Ravenscraft did? Maybe that's how I help you. So I don't know. And of course, the other thing I was really excited about in that last episode was that Facebook fan page, or not Facebook fan page, Facebook private group for the alumni. Wow, that's going awesome. I'll talk about that again in the future sometime. But anyway, so why do I bring all of that up? Well, guess what? Dan Matson is an alumni of the Podcasting A to Z course. And I already knew that I was going to share this episode as one of the episodes while I was out of town. And guess what? We talk about the Podcasting A to Z course. And so if you're already a little bit sensitive about how much I talked about Podcasting A to Z last week, which you could be, I don't know, then understand that there's some conversation about Podcasting A to Z. I think it's valuable conversation. I don't think it's just about Podcasting A to Z. I don't think it's just an ad, but there is a bit of conversation about Podcasting A to Z in here, and yeah, I do want to sell you some spots if you're interested. So and there's still, I believe, time. This goes out on the 27th. So if you're hearing this right around before it releases, or right around when it releases, you still have a little bit of time to use the promo code EARLY500 in the shopping cart. But anyway, let's get right into this advert. I didn't just say that, did I? Well, maybe. Okay, so here's a 30-minute ad for podcasting. No, it's not. It is an interview, and I hope that you enjoy it. And if before you hang up and stop hit the pause button or stop or whatever the case you're going to do, let me ask you this. Come back next week. Next week, I'm going to be sharing with you. What I'll do is I promise you this. In episode 315, I'll still be out on vacation. I'm getting ready to record it as soon as I'm done here, if I stop rambling. Here's what I will cover for you next week. I'm going to tell you about my 2 new sponsorships, my sponsorship for 2 new podcasts, or 2, and you'll understand next week, 2 podcasts that are getting sponsored by the same company, and I'll tell you a little bit about that, how I worked out that arrangement. And also in the next episode, I will give you interview etiquette. That's right. Things that you should think of when you actually go out of your way to ask someone else out there for an interview. These are the things that you probably want to get straight. You probably want to have this kind of etiquette so that you can actually show respect to the person that you're interviewing. Anyway, that's going to come up next week. Here's the interview that I did with Dan Matson, where he interviewed me on his show, and then I continued on to bring it here for you now.
Okay, I have on the phone with me today Cliff Ravenscraft from Hebron, Kentucky. Is that right, Cliff? Is that where you're from?
Yes, sir. Northern Kentucky, just outside of Cincinnati.
Okay, well, welcome to the podcast today. It's great having you on the show, Cliff.
Well, I'm glad to be here, Dan. I'll tell you, I'm so excited. I talk about you nonstop. Are you aware of that?
No, are you serious?
I'm surprised you don't get just the constant flow of emails of people asking you questions and say, I heard about you from Cliff. Yeah, absolutely. I talk about you every single time my podcasting A to Z class comes around, 20 to 35 students each time. And people are talking about their brands and what they should do and this and that. And I'm always like, here's what you do. You need to go over and look at hookedonwoodenboats.com. And this guy is the example to follow.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So for those listening today, Cliff Ravenscraft is also known as a podcast answer man. And just to give everybody a little history, I started listening to podcasts in 2009. My son got me hooked on it. And I started listening to Dan Miller first, Cliff. And weren't you interviewed by Dan Miller at some point?
I was interviewed for him for one of his telephone seminars, I believe, and I also interviewed him on my show, which maybe was out there as well.
Yeah, so I think I heard about you through Dan, and then I started listening to your podcast in 2010 and a bunch of other podcasts, and I loved it so much I decided, you know what, I got to do this. I got to start a podcast, and I piddled around for the next year and never really got off. I think I did a couple little recordings, but then I had no clue what to do with them. It was too overwhelming. So I'm like, okay, I got to sign up for this class that Cliff is giving, which was a September 2011 A to Z class. So did that, and Cliff took me through the process, and I got the podcast launched. And Cliff, you did an amazing job. It was phenomenal.
Well, thanks, Dan. Like I said, you're one of my star students as far as I'm concerned, and somebody who is podcasting as close to what I feel is the real true joy of podcasting, as far as doing it for the value of enhancing your own life and enhancing the lives of others through shared passions. And I don't know if we'll get into your story of how you came up with Hooked on Wooden Boats, but I tell you, I've told the story many times, Dan, and I love the story.
Well, I figured you kind of remember that. But do you want to tell your version of it?
I'll tell you my version. You tell me how much I've embellished it over the years, okay?
Okay.
All right, so here's the deal. Dan and I were having this conversation in our online discussion forums about what topic he was going to do his podcast about, and he finally came out one day, and he's writing in the forums, and in the forum you put, Cliff, I've narrowed it down. I'm absolutely positive it's one of these 2 topics. It's either going to be small business coaching, or it's going to be personal, related to personal financing or personal finance coaching. And here is the list of reasons why these are the 2 that I'm most qualified to do a podcast about. And I read through it, and Dan, if I were looking to hire you, that would have been the greatest resume in the world. And I looked through it, I was like, there's no question, Dan, you don't have to convince me any further. You undoubtedly are knowledgeable about both of these subjects. But here's the thing. I read your description of why these are the 2 podcast topics for you. Word for word. I did not miss a single period or exclamation mark. In fact, there was no exclamation marks. There were just periods. one thing I don't see in anything that you wrote is any sort of passion for the topic. You don't write that in there as being one of your reasons for one of these topics being the podcast that you would do. And here's the story that I tell. I said that you wrote back and says, gosh, Cliff, you know what? I never really thought about it all that much, but to be honest with you, I don't have much passion for those things. I won't go back and tell you what I usually say, but just in case somebody in your day job might listen, but I'll just say this. I said, do the world a favor, Dan, and don't do a podcast about either of those topics. Mm-hmm. Find something that you're passionate about. Is there something that brings true joy to your life, something that really excites you? Now, you wrote back in the forums, and I happened to be out doing something. I was probably in line at Chipotle, and I pull up my little iPhone, and I read your response, and I'm sitting there, and of course, super small text, right? And I read it, and it's like, gosh, Cliff, you know what? I do have two passions, and you know, one is mountain biking, and the other one is wooden boots. And I'm like, wooden boots? And I put my phone away, and I'm thinking, wooden boots. Does this guy, does he have this thing for the Dutch people and their wooden shoes? I'm thinking, seriously, he's into. It's like, okay, I totally believe in narrowing down the niche of the focus of your podcast. But I think I'm gonna when I get back to the studio, I'm going to write back, and I'm gonna push him towards mountain biking, because wooden boots might just be a little bit too much. And so I'm actually I get to my desk, and I hit reply, and I'm sitting here telling you all the reasons why you should go with mountain biking. And then I look to make sure that I quoted everything and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, that says wooden boats. That's different. And of course, you know, there's already plenty out there on biking and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with having a podcast where there's other competition out there in the podcasting space. In fact, that can be a great thing. But man, wooden boats. I started doing a Google search, and I found there's a Wooden Boat Association. And I found another podcast that had over 100 episodes that was all about boating. And there were a couple episodes related to and devoted to wooden boats. And I'm thinking, I think Dan's onto something. If he has a passion for this might be something I should encourage him to do. And that's what I did. And so here you are, what is it, episode 100 now, and you've got hooked on wooden boats, and you're Wooden Boat Dan today. And that's the story I tell. Now, how far off am I?
No, you're really close. I would say the only detail you might have missed is that I probably said road biking and mountain biking, but you said mountain biking. But other than that, that's very, very accurate, Cliff. In fact, today I went back to the forum and read through the dialogue just to clarify in my own mind what had been said.
I forgot all about that. I could have done that.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. It's like it put me back at that. It's like, because when I sent you that, and I think then you responded and said, well, Dan, I don't see any passion in this. What are you really passionate about? And I'm thinking, well, there's two things. Other than my faith in God is my first passion. But as far as hobbies go, wooden boats and bicycling, those are it. I love those things. I could talk all day about them. I could research them and do all this stuff. But I'm thinking, well, I can't do a podcast about that. You know how your mind kind of plays tricks with you like that.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think that if you would have done small business coaching or personal finance, knowing how much hard work you've put into this, you know how much work it takes to put out an episode and all the show notes and stuff, do you think you would actually have reached 100 episodes of either of those other two topics?
Oh man, it would have been really hard, Cliff. If I had, it would have been just painful. Because, like you say, it's work what you do, but it's so much fun that it doesn't feel like work. And I know if I had done the personal finance, accounting type of stuff, that it would have really felt like work every week and drudgery. And so, in fact, I might have told you that I had started a blog on personal finance and called Dr. Dollar.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, I published maybe 150 posts over about a 1-year period. I started out doing them every day, and then I kind of slowed down a little bit, did about 150, and then it's like, okay, I'm done with this. That's it. I was just racking my brain for what I'm going to talk about and wasn't getting much traction as far as, people reading the blog. And I just wasn't having fun with it. But, I can honestly say with this wooden boat thing, Cliff, when I first started this, it's like I did the first 2 shows, I just talked about my own wooden boat experiences. Then the third show, I did an interview. And then I thought, I'm done. What am I going to do now? There's nothing else to say, right?
Except that there's 100 episodes out there now. So how did you get over that hurdle? How did you get to episode 4? What turned on the light on future content?
Well, I've been in the wooden boat world for long enough to know quite a few names around the Seattle area. And, the Center for Wooden Boats here in Seattle and in Port Townsend, the Northwest Maritime Center and the Wooden Boat Foundation. And I had visited a couple of wooden boat builders in the area. So I just thought, I'm going to start calling these guys. And so as I started calling them, what I found out is they were very happy. They love to talk about what they love, right? I mean, that's what people want to do. If they're passionate about something and you call and say, hey, would you talk about this? They're like, are you serious? So as I've gotten into it, Cliff, every person I meet, then I find out 10 more names. And now the world has gotten so big, this wooden boat world to me, that it's like I kind of had to slow down as far as recording interviews because I was getting so far ahead. It's like, I don't want to get too far ahead. I've got 3 or 4 in the bag because I like to do them a little bit ahead of time because most of the shows are interviews. But it's like now, especially now that I'm set up for phone interviews, which I just started doing that about a month ago, so I can talk to people around the world. So it's like the universe is huge now compared to what it was.
Hey, do you mind me asking? So you're doing phone interviews. I know you called this a phone interview. We're doing Skype to Skype. How are you recording those? Are you using either Pamela or Call Recorder?
No, I'm just recording them through my little Behringer recorder. I got the cheap one where you have to unplug the power cord. And so I'm going from that right into my Roland R05 and using an SM58 mic.
Okay, so you're doing the mix minus deal.
I'm doing the mix minus, yeah.
Oh, Dan, I'm so proud of you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, doing it with my
great.
MacBook Pro.
That's great, man.
Yeah, well, I think it was March of 2012, I emailed you and said, Cliff, I want to get set up to do some phone interviews. So you sent me some diagrams and said, watch this video. And so I did that and I bought the equipment and then it just sat in my drawer. I was just intimidated for about a year. And finally, about 2 months ago, it's like, all right, I'm going to pull that out of the drawer and start doing this. So I did. And it works great, Cliff. What a blast.
That's wonderful. And it opens up the world of opportunities. And so you said telephone interviews. Have you actually had somebody where they're on the telephone and you Skype to dial out to the telephone?
Yeah. I dial from Skype and I just do it I ask them to use a landline if they can.
Yeah.
I don't even deal with them using Skype because, it's more technical. Unless somebody's used to using it all the time, it can be intimidating. And the recording quality has been excellent. So I got to interview the director of research at Wooden Boat Magazine. She's been there for 20 years, which was really awesome because that's, Wooden Boat Magazine started in 1974, and that was kind of the resurgence of the whole wooden boat thing starting in the 70s because boats had were being started building them in fiberglass. And so I got to interview her, and then she referred me to another guy who's been building boats back on the East Coast in Brooklyn, Maine, and I'm trying. What I really want to do, Cliff, is I've got this idea from listening to your show where you've got Eric Fisher as a correspondent. I thought, what would be cool is if I could get 4 or 5 people around the world in different locations that are connected to the wooden boat community there, and I could bring them on the show maybe twice a year and spend 15, 20 minutes with them talking about what's happening in their neck of the woods.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. Yeah, and in fact, the other thing I'm going to do here in July, first week of July, is there's a big wooden boat festival. It's actually, wooden boat show that's put on by Wooden Boat Magazine at Mystic Seaport in Connecticut, which is the biggest show on the East Coast, I'm pretty sure. It's been going for 20-some years. I'm going to find somebody from Wooden Boat Magazine, hopefully, that attends that show, and then we're going to talk about it when they get back from the show and do that as a recording for the podcast.
That's excellent.
Yes.
You happen to have the best show notes, the most intriguing show notes of any podcast that I like when I go to the website and look, and it has everything to do with the photos there. Do you personally go and interview these people face to face whenever you have the opportunity? And are you taking these photos?
I probably 80% of the photos are mine.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I'm actually hoping to produce a wooden boat calendar this year for the first time. So I'm kind of collecting my best photos, and I'm going to do some kind of a print-on-demand thing and offer a calendar at the end of the year for 2014.
That is that is one of the coolest, most creative ideas I thought that I've heard of. That's awesome.
Yeah, so
I want to buy one.
Are you serious?
I definitely put me down for the first order. Whatever, it doesn't matter what the price is. I'll buy one. I'm not kidding.
They're going to be pretty expensive, Cliff. I think like $500 maybe.
You put me down for one, Dan. I want it.
Okay, seriously, cool. I appreciate it.
If it'll be a business expense for me because I'll just show everybody. See, this is what you can do. These are the kind of products you can create. I love that.
Yeah, it's very cool. And then you should get my first ebook that I'm writing, which is going to be a guide for someone who's building a wooden boat for the first time.
Oh, I like that idea.
Yeah, it's going to step you through the process of deciding what type of boat you should build, how long it's going to take, what it's going to cost, what kind of a shop you need. Should you buy a kit? Should you build it from scratch? Where do you get the design or the plans? That whole thing. How much time do you want to spend on it? Because there's a lot of decisions to make when you build a boat. And, I've done it enough. I'm building my 6th boat now, which is like one every 7 years if you go back to 1972 when I built my first pram. But I've stepped up the pace in recent years. And so, I've learned a lot about that. And I think it'll be a helpful guide.
So, Dan, I know this is you interviewing me and everything, but I hope you don't mind me asking you questions because
ask me some questions.
I'm super intrigued. I've got to ask you. So, you're so deep and deeply involved now in the wooden boat community, and I just want to know, prior to launching Hooked on Wooden Boats, the podcast and website and blog with all this amazing content on it, where you're going out and interviewing these people, taking these pictures, thinking about creating calendars, which is going to be awesome. Prior to starting this podcast, how involved were you as far as time and effort? Not passion for it. It sounds to me like you've always had this passion, but how much time were you devoting to wooden boats prior to the launch of this podcast?
Well, let's see. I built my first real wooden boat over a 5-year period from 92 to 97. And so during that time, I would go to the Wooden Boat Festival in Seattle once a year. And then I would talk to local suppliers and buy parts and do research about how to build a boat. So, not a lot, Cliff. I mean, it was mainly limited to going to 2 boat shows a year and building a couple boats.
Okay, so you were still involved.
I was involved, yeah.
But the podcast has certainly enhanced it, I guess. That's where I was going. I was just wanting to know that with you creating a weekly podcast and doing all these interviews, how has it enhanced your enjoyment of this hobby? Or has some see, here's the deal. Some people say, I don't know if I really want to do this because some things are just meant to be a hobby, and if you start doing things that you might monetize later, it becomes work, and then it's not as an enjoyable experience anymore. How's that been for you?
No, it's not that at all, Cliff. I mean, I've learned so much and interviewed so many fascinating people. It's just mind-boggling. I mean, if somebody starts like somebody that's not in the Woodabona community, like a family or friend, if they start asking me about my podcast, I have a hard time stopping talking about it.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I mean, I'm having so much fun with it, and the community of people is amazing. I mean, I interviewed a guy last year that had been building boats in his garage on Samish Island, Washington for the last 50 years. And the mold that he had in his garage that he was building the boats on, he had paid 50 cents for 50 years ago from the USA Plywood Association.
Wow.
I meet people that sail tall ships that are made of wood that are 150 feet long around the world, and everything is done in the traditional manner. All the rigging is traditional. All the terms are what they used 100 years ago. I mean, I find it so fascinating, Cliff, that it's totally not like work at all.
And I'm the same way. Obviously people warn me, gosh, Cliff, if you go into podcasting full time as your career, you may find that you don't enjoy podcasting as much. And that's not the truth. I mean, here I am. I'm now the podcasting director for the #1 industry leading conference for social media and podcasting and blogging. And so it certainly has done the same thing for me. It's got me right up there to the top of interacting with the greatest peers in this industry of podcasting. And it sounds like it's doing the same for you. So
it really is.
That's exciting.
And what's really fun is when I go like to Port Townsend, which is Seattle and Port Townsend are kind of the two wooden boat centers in Washington State, or actually for the West Coast, they're pretty big. I go to Port Townsend now, and I know a ton of people. And I am welcomed into the community there. Everybody wants to show me what they're doing. They say, hey, here's a guy you should interview over here. Why don't you talk to this guy? So it's kind of like going home when I go over there. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
So, no, I'm having probably more fun than when I started, Cliff.
That's great to hear. That is great to hear.
Yeah. And part of that, too, is like I'm sure you experience over the years as you get the technical part of it down, so you don't have to fuss with that as much, and you can just focus on the content and doing what you enjoy. That's what really makes it cool.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. So, hey, I really appreciate you being on the show today, Cliff, episode 100. I want to thank you again for your A to Z class. If it hadn't been for that, I probably wouldn't be doing this. It was very awesome, and I just wanted to give you credit for helping me get this little baby launched in September of 2011.
Well, I just want to congratulate you, Dan, and I'm not just blowing smoke or anything like that. I really do. I talk about you nonstop all the time, and I couldn't be more thrilled for you, and I look forward to continuing to follow your journey, because I know that the best days are yet to come. And I know this from personal experience.
Cool. Well, thanks, Cliff. And I'm hoping we get to meet in person someday. I don't know if you ever get to Seattle. It's funny, there's not much podcasts like PodCamp and that stuff. It seems like it's not happening up in this area. But anyway, thanks again, Cliff, for being on the show. And we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay. Take care. That was awesome, Cliff.
That is awesome. I'll tell you what, I'm still recording on my end. I have one big, huge question for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks for vacation, and I've been thinking, what on earth am I going to do for Podcast Answer Man content? Would you mind if I take my recording of this and put it out as an episode of Podcast Answer Man?
That would be awesome if you wanted to do that, Cliff.
Heck yeah, it would be huge. And I have one other question for you that I would love to ask and have it recorded. For those who are taking right now my Podcasting A to Z online training course, they're in the 4th week of the course. And then those who might be taking my Podcasting A to Z course in the future, given your experience and all that you went through, going through that 4 weeks of the course and stuff, tell me, what advice would you want to give to other students to encourage them that they can do this?
Well, I think that it's very well laid out from start to beginning. if you follow the guidelines on a timely basis that Cliff gives, and you have any questions you ask them, you can do it. It takes some determination, but the technical part is, it's hard, but Cliff walks you through it. So you can do it. If you can, turn on a computer, you can record a podcast, because the course is that good. It was awesome to be able to ask questions, because I would sit awake at night and think, okay, I've only got 2 more weeks in this class. I need to ask some more questions, kind of thing. But no, it was, I think the cool part of it, Cliff, is I think it was probably, maybe it was in the first week or the second week of the class. You're like, okay, you guys, it's not going to be perfect, but you just need to record your first episode and get it out there. I'm thinking, are you serious, Cliff? I'm going to record my first one and put it out there? And so I did it, and it's like, wow, it worked. That was the beginning right there.
Absolutely. And that first episode is still online today?
It is, yeah.
And when you go back, you obviously know how you sound today. When you go back, how do you feel about that first episode today?
Well, the audio quality is not as good. I'm not as probably sure of myself as I was then, but it's actually, the first one is pretty, there's been a lot of downloads of it. Yeah. I think it's in the top 10.
Yeah. And it got you to where you are today. You would have never got to where you are today without putting out a first episode.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how long you would have waited. The first one would have never been perfect.
Well, I was just shaking in my wooden boots when you said that, Cliff. Like, really? We're going to do this? That's what good. I signed up for, isn't it?
That's exactly what you signed up for. That's great. That is wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I'll tell you what. I told you I had one question. I have one more.
Okay.
So I happen to know this for a lot of people. They get in there. They take the course. They even most of the folks that go through the course actually do have their first episode online by the end of the 4 weeks, and some just a few weeks after that. And so the question I have is, there are a lot of people who say, "Oh my gosh, I'm spending like 3 hours in show preparation, and then I record the episode, and then in editing, I'm spending like 2.5 hours, sometimes 3 hours." Editing this thing, and then I put my show notes online. I mean, I didn't sign up for 6 to 8 hours a week on a weekly basis. This is ridiculous. Did you have that sort of experience starting out? Was it that intense for you? And how has things changed as you've moved forward?
So I would say my first couple episodes, first 2 or 3 episodes, probably did take me, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 8 hours to produce, going through the whole process. Part of that was that I was just over editing the recording. Every time I'd say or ah, I would think, oh, I've got to edit that out, and so I would go in and do that. And it was just because there's a lot of steps in the process, and until you really get it down, it does take time. I guess what I would say to people in the beginning is, plan on taking, if you're going to make it good, plan on 5 to 8 hours for the first few episodes. But now, Cliff, if I have an interview that I've already recorded, I can record an introduction and an outroduction, and I can put together my show notes, and I'm just using Audacity still, and I don't even use my mixer for music. I've got my audio clips recorded, and I just put those in Audacity at the front and the end of the show, put that all together, upload it, write my show notes, and I can do it all now in, not counting the time to do the interview, but I can put the whole thing together in probably 2 to 3 hours a week.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It's much more manageable now.
Excellent. And by the way, folks, if you're hearing that and you're thinking, wow, that is a lot of work, Dan is doing a lot of pre-show preparation. He's getting to know about his folks, and he's going and taking pictures. He's doing his show notes are unbelievable. Check it out, hookedonwoodenboats.com. Just go to any of the episodes and just look at the pictures that he's got. So he's formatting those pictures for his website. He's writing up the information there. And so that sounds about right for the kind of content that you're doing. 2 to 3 hours a week is about spot on. And yeah, absolutely. I think Podcast Answer Man, I'm just over 300 episodes now, and I think I spend anywhere between 1 to 2.5 hours in pre-show preparation, usually closer to the 1 hour, and then an hour to record, and anywhere between 20 minutes up to an hour and a half for show notes and post-show preparation or post-show stuff. So yeah, that's about right. About 2 to 3 hours on average for super, super high quality content.
And what's kind of cool now, as you know, Cliff, probably 80 to 90% of my shows are interviews of other people. And it used to take me a lot of prep to put those together. I would write out a lot of questions and so on. But now I've done it enough where I can just do the research about the person and go into the interview and not necessarily even have to write anything down and have a pretty decent interview.
That's great. Yeah, everything, perfection comes with practice.
Exactly. So, and I love interviewing people. That's kind of another passion of mine now.
That's great.
So,
well, Dan, I'm so excited. And thank you, by the way, for allowing me to share this interview for your podcast as an episode of Podcast Answer Man, and for allowing me to share this with my community. I appreciate the opportunity to be in front of your community through your podcast, but thank you for taking this extra time to allow me to use that interview plus this additional valuable content here at the end.
Yeah, no worries, Cliff. That's awesome. I'm glad you see it as good material, and I hope people can benefit from it, because podcasting is awesome. I love it.
Well, my friends, that is going to wrap it up for this episode of Podcast Answer Man. I hope that you enjoyed the conversation that I had with Dan Matson. I'll tell you, I love talking about him. I love telling his story. And I love watching somebody who's building something and just pursuing the passion and not really trying to force the financial side of things. And the one thing that I love about Dan is that I really believe he's going to be one of those case studies where eventually people are going to be begging for ways to give him money. I really do. I believe that he's providing that value. There are people out in the wooden boat community, these CEOs and of big wooden boat manufacturers. They're going to be knocking on his door one day and saying, hey, you've got this huge, huge presence in this community. And when I say huge, I'm talking, let's just say if it's just 1,000 or 2,000 people. But those are 2,000 loyal, devoted, woodworking people who are building boats purely out of wood. And they have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years buying equipment and supplies and maintenance materials to keep up with these boats. I mean, they're pretty serious enthusiasts. And there are different manufacturers making products for those people, competing for their attentions, their hearts, their minds, their top-of-mind awareness. What better way to get the message out than to get in there with somebody who actually is known as Wooden Boat Dan? Anyway, I enjoyed that interview. I love talking with Dan. Great guy. Go check him out if you don't check him out already. hookedonwoodenboats.com. Hey, real quick, like I said, there's still time for you to sign up for Podcasting A to Z. As long as you sign up before July 1st, by the end of June, if you sign up using early 500, there's still time to save $500 off. All right, so again, go to podcastinga2z.com. Use the promo code early500. I would love to start working with you on July 22nd, and we'll take it from there. Help you get your show online, walk you through it, hand-held all the way through, answering all your questions as you go through. And that's it. I just want to say this. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope that you'll tune in next week. I'll be talking about interview etiquette. And I'll also talk about my new sponsor for 2 of my shows. So there you go. That's it. I'm going to go record that episode right now so that I can actually get out of here and go on my 2-week vacation with my family. God bless you all. Thank you for all that you do. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope that you enjoy this show.
Helping you to get the beat.